Hi there, welcome to another strategic thinking series. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that we've been doing a lot on recently, which is core processes associated with your vendor management office. This one is the third one about structured reviews.
Vendor Ops, powered by Brooklyn Solutions.
So, what is a structured review? So, a structured review is a meeting with the buyer and the supplier, otherwise your organisation where you're the vendor manager and you've got business units potentially, and the supplier you've engaged with to provide products or services or a combination of the both for you. It needs meeting notes, right? It's not a chat. It's a structured review, and this is what we believe in the Vendor Ops say and also in Brooklyn, that you need to hold it in a structured manner, it needs to be consistent and cover key parts of what is considered to be the things required for delivery and the outcomes to be expected and benefit realisation of the deal and the reason you've engaged the supplier in the first place. So it needs to be structured, it needs to be held in meaningful conversation with a vendor. It needs to be constructed of what is pertinent and what is important at that point in time, and the minutes written so and the associated actions assigned and carried out, and those reviewed between sessions. It needs to happen in both the organisational terms, so the organisation is in the supplier's organisation and the buyer's organisation and what's happening in those two companies in the strategic view, and also what's actually in the contract that's being brought together in the collaborative sense to be delivered. So there's kind of three elements that if you could treat that as a Venn diagram, it's two companies, maybe sometimes it could be more, it could be multi-party if there's sub-suppliers in there as well, but at least two companies that the arrangements are made with and the contractual agreement between them. In terms of cadence, what do we recommend? So ideally, where possible, 12 weeks is ideal to engage on. A lot of departments in large organisations, as well as the way business works, especially in the UK, works on 12-week cycles like VAT returns, etc. in 12 weeks, financial quarters, sales quarters, targets, all reported on a quarterly basis. It's long enough for there to be a kind of trend to materialise. There's enough data amassed over a 60 working day or 90-day period, so 12 weeks, to do something with and be reasonable to get some analytics around it and get those trends materialised. So we recommend sort of a 12-week cadence is ideal for your key critical important suppliers for a structured review. In terms of contents to cover, so what would we recommend? So contractual agreement. So the specifics about the contractual agreement. Have there been any changes to that? Is the state of where you're up to given the life cycle of that contract and that delivery? Are you where expected to be? Are you still getting the best out of the agreement? And that's not just both from the buyer sense, for you, for the vendor manager. Are we getting from the supplier what we envisaged? There's also, is the supplier getting from us as a customer what they envisaged to get from it? And is that relationship good? And does that contract need to be changed in any way, shape or form? It's not a problem if it does. That's what contractual changes and change notices are there for. Things happen, companies change, etc. Which leads on to point two. So external, internal factors. There could be regulatory changes externally on either side of the relationship that says we need to operate in a slightly different way going forward. And thus back to the earlier point, you might have to do a contractual change notice for that or just be aware of that. Internal factors, anything from restructuring, mergers, acquisitions, sales, etc. Strategic changes, so you might have changed the way that the organisation is going to market that's using a supplier, and that may change the way that supplier provides services for you, but that needs to be discussed. Equally, the supplier may be changing the market that they are in and looking to move into a different field, and they might be moving away from the field in which they provide you services or products, in which case there needs to be a discussed running down of that agreement and looking for an alternative provider. But the only way you're going to discover that is by meeting with them regularly and having that open conversation about any external or internal factors that are taking place over the last quarter or 90 days. Forward-looking section, so supplying, reviewing, what's the roadmap of each organisation, what's being looked at from a horizon scanning perspective, will anything change, is there anything coming on to the environmental factors, so you could look at things like geopolitical, like Brexit as an example, could be discussed at these sessions, or pandemic related, like COVID we saw, how's that impacting the ability to supply and the ability to receive, which then leads us into the fourth one around challenges and blockers. Are there any concerns or challenges being picked up either at a tactical level in terms of that's going to contribute to a lack of delivery or a lack of desired outcome and thus benefits realisation? And then finally, which is kind of away from the contractual agreement, but is against the organisations themselves, is financial stability and risk. Is there any signs of the supplier organisation is in stress from a financial perspective, risk of not being around for long, any resilient problems? And equally for the buying organisation, is there any issues from a financial stability and risk perspective playing out on that side that the supplier needs to be aware of that might be able to help with in some shape or form? There's lots more you can cover in these sessions, but I think those 5 points, if you covered them in a structured manner each time, writing up the necessary outcomes, doing the minute taking, etc., noting the actions down and assigning them accordingly to be worked on in the next period, and then review each time you get together, you'll be a long way there to being on top of what we would consider to be a worthwhile and decent structured review. Easy said, we see a lot of organisations and just don't have something in place that's defined to this level and as repeatable and as applicable as this. So structured reviews, there you go. One key or core process that we think your vendor management office function sorely needs. Feedback and comments welcome. Let us know what you think. Did I miss anything? It would be good to hear. Cheers.
Vendor Ops, powered by Brooklyn Solutions. To keep up with the latest Vendor Ops news, subscribe here and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description below.